Ahmadiyya zindabad, oh zindabad. 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 Ahmadiyya zindabad.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In this episode, we want to discuss the problem of economic recession and the depressed economy. People may think that the problem of economic recession or depressed economy has little to do with religion. As a matter of fact, it has a lot to do with religion. But before we go into the Quran, let us clear some basic issues. What is recession? And why are we concerned about it? Before we talk about Islam's approach to the question of recession. Recession is a substantial, persistent fall in aggregate spending or purchasing power of the nation. This results in the substantial reduction or contraction of production or supply of goods and services. Consequently, the economy experiences significant fall in incomes and high level of unemployment. The resultant fall in incomes and employment due to the initial fall in aggregate spending will result in another round of substantial fall in aggregate spending as incomes keep falling. And with expenditure falling for another round, there will further be reduction in production and fall in incomes. The process of successive cuts in expenditure followed by cuts in production and incomes, resulting in another round of cuts in expenditure due to falling incomes, continues until the recession pushes the economy to the lowest level, which is the downturn of economic depression, beyond which the economy can no longer fall. At the bottom or the downturn of the economic recession or depression, unemployment reaches its highest level, and people become so impoverished that they can no longer cut spending, so that production and incomes can no longer fall. Our concern with recession is that if it is not checked, it will lead continually to tremendous unemployment and unbearable poverty as the economy approaches the downturn or bottom of the economic depression. Although we realize that recession is caused by substantial and persistent fall in aggregate spending, it is instructive to examine the causes of fall in aggregate spending that precipitate the Nigerian economic recession. It is obvious to many of us that the fall in aggregate spending is due largely to sharp fall in the price and quantity of crude oil exported that sets in from late 2014 and early 2015. The price of crude oil has fallen from its peak of $140 to below $40 in recent times. And that is because government revenue comes largely from crude oil, and the nation's foreign exchange earnings come largely from crude oil exports. As a result, the oil-dependent economy crashed as export earnings could no longer support our massive consumer and capital goods importation, and as government revenue could no longer cope with its capital expenditure and the recurring expenditure, of which salaries of workers form a major component. Now, that is the surface of recession. Islam says there's a fundamental cause of recession. Now, when the nation was earning a lot of money from crude oil, what did they do? So from Islamic point of view, it is actually fraud, corruption, injustice that is the fundamental cause of economic recession or depression. In chapter 11 of the Holy Qur'an, Tafseer-ul-Qur'an, verse 85 and 86. It may be 84 and 85 your own, if Bismillah is not numbered. Allah says, and to the Midian we sent their brother, Prophet Shu'aib. He said, O my people, worship Allah. You have no other God other than him. And give not short measure and short weight. I see you in a state of prosperity, and I fear for you the punishment of a destructive day. In other words, when a nation is enjoying prosperity, if that nation embarks on fraudulent practices, on corruption, on cheating, that prosperity will change to poverty, to recession. The next verse says, quoting Prophet Shu'aib, and O my people, give full measure and full weight with justice, with equity, and defraud not the people of their things, and commit not corruption in the earth, causing disorder. Now, in Quran, chapter 83, verse 1, Allah says, woe unto those that deal in fraud. Okay? It's not a simple matter that we are experiencing. In chapter 83 of the Holy Quran, Allah says, woe unto those that deal in corruption, that deal in fraud, that give short measure. That is Surah 35, chapter 3. That is to say, woe unto those who are fraudulent, who cheat, who give short measure and defraud people in business and even in politics. Allah says those people will end up in hell. It's so serious that God says in the day of judgment, God will not even show them his face. And they will be liable to tremendous punishment. So the question of recession is not a joking matter in Islam. And the fundamental cause is fraud and corruption. So Prophet Shu'aib, Nabi Shu'aib, told his people that, look, these corrupt practices that you engage in can lead to your destruction. The kind of destruction that befell the people of Noah or Lut. But the people did not listen. They look at Shu'aib as a poor man who is weak, and they are arrogant, trusting in their wealth. Eventually, God destroyed the people of Midian and saved Shu'aib and his followers. We observe that in the time of Hadrat Yusuf, Prophet Yusuf, there was a dream that there will be 7 years of prosperity, followed by 7 years of recession, of poverty, of famine. Prophet Yusuf, alayhi salam, peace be on him, then told his people, look, when we have this prosperity, the best is to save against the period of recession, poverty, or famine. And that was what saved Egypt in those days. Nigeria had tremendous crude oil earnings during the period of the former president. And according to confession of the former minister of finance, he said Nigeria did not save. We did not bother to save at all. All we did was to engage in fraudulent practices, in corruption, in looting. And as far as Islam is concerned, it's not a simple matter. Because Allah says, woe unto those that deal in fraud. They will be cast into terrible hell. It will be so serious on the day of judgment that God will not show them his face. And this warning abounds in so many parts of the Holy Qur'an. Like I've said before, in Surah Al-Araf, chapter 7 of the Holy Qur'an, Allah repeats the same thing, that to the Midian, we sent their brother, Shuaib, Prophet Shuaib. He said, O my people, worship Allah. You have no other deity but him. A clear sign has indeed come to you from your Lord. So give full measure and full weight, and diminish not unto the people their things. Do not cheat the people. Give them their due. Create not corruption in the earth, and do not create disorder after it has been set in order. This is better for you if you are believers. We observe that this issue of corruption and the consequent poverty and depression abounds the Holy Quran. I've already, if you go to chapter 83, Surah Al-Tatfif, God curses those people who deal in fraud. Surah Al-Hud, the same thing. Surah Al-Araf, the same thing. So many parts of the Quran. So Muslims should not treat corruption as a simple matter. The fundamental cause of depression is not the fall in crude oil. It is the fraudulent practices and corruption, because Allah will be the cause of that depression. If you're enjoying prosperity, like Prophet Shuaib said, he said, I see you in a state of prosperity, and I fear for you the punishment of a destructive day. You are enjoying prosperity, and you are dealing in fraud. Allah will bring about depression, recession, poverty as a punishment in the destructive day. And if we do not correct the situation, then the country may undergo terrible punishment, like those experienced by the people of Noah. It's already happening in many parts of the world. Look at Afghanistan. They are dying in hundreds regularly, weekly. Okay. So, and the origin of the problem is corruption and fraud. It happens in many parts of the world. Nigeria should be very, very careful. In accordance with the process of the Holy Quran, if you don't desist from your corruption, it's not only depression that we see, but you can even face calamities, okay, like earthquake, famine, storm, and kind of things. Because the people of Midian, to whom Prophet Shuaib was sent, warned his people, but they didn't listen until they were destroyed. Now, how do we go about solving the problem of recession? Of course, we did not adopt the policy of Prophet Yusuf, Hazrat Yusuf, alayhi salam. In the days of our prosperity, we did not save against the rainy day, but there's still a way out. That way out is also taught by the Holy Quran. Allah says, if you stop your evil, we shall stop our punishment. So, the only fundamental way out is an orientation towards integrity, justice, honesty, and fight against corruption and cheating. Fraud abounds in many parts of our economy, not just from government side or from politicians or big businessmen, but even in markets. You cannot trust people when you ask them to measure something for you. They will cheat. They will not make sure that the kilogram they give you is a full kilo. When you buy a bag of rice, sometimes they have taken something out of it and resealed it. People take it as a way of life to be corrupt. We are only enjoying the grace of God. But there's a limit to that grace of God. if we do not stop our cheating. People sell bad products and disguise it. When you want to buy something, they put clean ones on top. Okay? Like want to buy gari, they can put clean one on top, put bad one below. When you want to buy pepper, they can put good ones on top, put rotten ones below. All this cheating is so rampant in Nigeria. And the people involved call themselves men and women of God. They are either Muslims or Christians. But they don't know the enormity of the problem of fraud and corruption. That is the fundamental cause of recession. Now, why are we bothered about recession? The major reason why we are bothered about recession is that it leads to tremendous unemployment. Because incomes are falling. When income falls, people buy less. When businesses cannot sell what they produce, they cut down production. They will not normally cut price in order to sell more. No, they won't do so. Prices tend to be fixed. So if what they produce cannot be sold at the going price, they will step down production. And that means sacking people. When they sack people, incomes fall. Those who are buying, their incomes are falling. So they will stop buying. So supply, demand, spending will fall again. As spending falls, they will cut production again. They keep cutting. And the economy gets to an abysmal level that we call the bottom of depression, where there's tremendous unemployment. Majority are in poverty. Okay. It's not because the nation does not have the wealth. The nation has abundant land that can use to producing. We have even capital. Okay. We have the manpower. But the problem is due to corrupt management of the economy. So, as far as Islam is concerned, the ways out are straightforward. First of all, we must be resolved to stop corruption and cheating. As long as we are bent on stealing, on looting, on defrauding, Allah will not come to our aid. Okay? Everything is decreed by God Almighty. God has power to make the price of crude oil to go up. He has power to make it come down. He has power to cause economic recession in the whole world on account of our corruption. But if, to start with, we are resolved to stop cheating ourselves, to stop cheating the people, we are determined to give people their just dues, okay, then God will bring about good times. Apart from that, from the processes of the economy, things will start to straighten up. And then one major way in doing so is for the leaders, okay, to arrange meetings, conferences, dialogues with the people at various levels, at federal level, state level, local government level, to call the people and say, look, we have problems with the economy. How do we go about it? You businessmen, what do you need to produce to support the economy that we shall not keep depending upon importation? You farmers, what can we do for you that you can make agriculture go, make progress? And on the part of government says, okay, this is what we can do to assist you. How do you think you can manage the thing? So that is what Islam calls shura. And in Quran, chapter 42, verse 39, Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Meaning, and those who hearken to their Lord, they listen to God, they become pious, God-fearing, and they observe prayer. They don't believe they have all answers. They appeal to God, they pray to God. And then those whose affairs are decided by mutual consultation and who spend out of what we have provided for them. Okay, that means there are in this country very wealthy people who can spend from their wealth to correct the problems. For instance, a lot of youths are unemployed. A lot of farmers need assistance We have Nigerians who are multimillionaires or even billionaires within their own community. They can organize to purchase tractors with their implements for farmers and assist them. So, apart from the legal tax, Islam encourages people who are wealthy to go beyond paying tax, but spending out of their resources to help the people. So that is one step. We have to consult with the people, hold mutual discussion, consultation, to see what will be the roles of everyone in addressing the problem. Number 2, Allah says in Tafseer-ul-Qur'an, chapter 20 of the Holy Quran, verses 119 to 120, that it is decreed that in the land nobody should go hungry. Okay, that's the major one. There are other basic needs that Quran set forward, but the first one is addressing hunger. The other ones include clothing, water, and shelter. 4 basic needs: clothing, water, shelter. But number 1 basic need is hunger. Now, how do we address the problem of hunger? One major problem why we are worried about recession is because of its consequences on poverty. Too many people have been driven into poverty. That poverty is serious that they have become mentally disturbed. They can no longer reason anymore. They have been driven into insensibility. They cannot make sense. That is why you see all kinds of terrible behavior. Because it's okay, how do we survive? Some of the criminally minded youths will go and be engaged in all kinds of criminal activities because they have no other choice. Okay. The others may defraud or maybe engage in stealing or begging, or may say, okay, we want to go abroad at all costs. The women, they will arrange them to go to Europe to go and practice prostitution. The men say, okay, you have a good job abroad, and hundreds of them perish on the way. But they have no other choice. So we are killing our people. That is why fraud, injustice, corruption is a serious matter, because it renders many people to become useless. Poverty makes them not be able to have any sense at all. So they cannot even listen to preaching. And at the end of the day, the admonition or religion cannot make any sense to them. But if people can feed, they will be able to think of God and even pray. Somebody that's not eating for days, you ask him to pray, he cannot even concentrate in prayer. And corruption will lead to many people ending up in hell because they are unable to practice religion as it ought to be done. So, how then do we ensure that everybody is assisted not to suffer hunger? Okay. So, at the next episode, we'll discuss details and guidance of the Holy Quran on addressing question of hunger and poverty. There's no excuse from any leader that's okay, the people, they are lazy. What do we do? How can we feed lazy people? No, God not give any condition. God says unconditionally, arrange feeding of the poor. It is left to you to know how to do it. But Quran gives guidance and guidelines in this respect. Another aspect that goes with it is creating jobs, employment. Majority of youths are jobless. We have, they say, about 170 million people in our population. And more than 50% are youths. Okay? So, if you say youths between 18, able-bodied men, let me say, able-bodied men and women, people between 80 and 40, they easily account for almost 50% of the population. And when you take 170 million people, let me say there are about 80 million. Okay? Not more than 5 million people have good jobs in this country. Not more than 5 million have jobs with good companies, with government. The remaining 70 or 75 million, they're on their own. Many are doing street trading, many are begging, many are just managing with their families, the extended family system, more or less dependent upon those who are working. Many are in the villages struggling to survive. So we need to find a way of creating job and arresting joblessness. May Allah guide us aright in this respect. Rabbana, atina min ladunka rahmatan wa hajjana min rashida. May Allah be pleased with us to be able to follow the guidance so that we do not perish like the people of Shuaib. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ahmadiyya zindabad, oh zindabad. Ahmadiyya zindabad, oh zindabad.